Hello everyone, I am Dr. S. Viran Kham, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology, late Rameshwar Purkar ACS College, Sonpet, District Parvani. Dear friends, today we are going to discuss on syllabus for semester 5th, the paper number 12, which is Ecology and Zoo Geography. This syllabus is divided into 4 units. We know what is ecology. Ecology is the branch of biology that deals with the relations of organisms to one another and to their physical surroundings. In the unit first point is a introduction and scope of ecology. The next point is a introduction of ecosystem. We know an ecosystem is a community of living organisms in conjunction with the non-living components of their environment, interacting as a system. These biotic and abiotic components are linked together through nutrient cycle and energy flows. The next point is a components of an ecosystem. There are two components of an ecosystem. One is a abiotic component and another one is a biotic component. In biology and ecology, abiotic components or biotic factors are non-living chemical and physical parts of the environment that affect living organisms and the functioning of ecosystems. Abiotic factor and the phenomena associated with them underpin biology as a whole. Abiotic components include physical conditions and non-living resources that affect living organisms in terms of growth, maintenance, and reproduction. Then the abiotic factor is like light, temperature, and water. Then next point is a biotic component. We know biotic components or biotic factors can be described as any living component that affects another organism or shapes the ecosystem. This includes both animals that consume other organisms within their ecosystem and the organism that is being consumed. In the biotic components, producers, consumers, and decomposers. The next point is a types of ecosystem. There are two types of ecosystem. One is an aquatic ecosystem and another one is a terrestrial ecosystem. We know an aquatic ecosystem is an ecosystem in a body of water. Communities of organisms that are dependent on each other and on their environment live in aquatic ecosystems. The two main types of aquatic ecosystems are marine ecosystem and freshwater ecosystem. In our syllabus, the example of freshwater ecosystem is a pond ecosystem. Then next is a terrestrial ecosystem. We know a terrestrial ecosystem is a type of ecosystem found only on land forms. Six primary terrestrial ecosystems exist: tundra, taiga, temperate deciduous forests, then tropical rainforest, grassland, deserts. For our study, desert ecosystem. Then next point is a food chain. We know a food chain is a linear network of links in a food web starting from producer organisms and ending at apex predator species. And detritivores or decomposer species of food chain also shows how the organisms are related with each other by the food they eat. Each level of food chain represents a different trophic level. The next is a food web. A food web is the natural interconnection of food chains and graphical representation of what eats what in an ecological community. Another name for food web is a consumer resource system. Then next point is a ecological pyramids. An ecological pyramid is a graphical representation designed to show the biomass of bioproductivity at each trophic level in a given ecosystem. The next point is a energy flow in an ecosystem. In ecology, energy flow, also called the calorific flow, refers to the flow of energy through a food chain and is the focus of study in ecological energetics. In an ecosystem, ecologists seek to quantify the relative importance of different component species and feeding relationships. Then next point is a biogeochemical cycles. In ecology and earth science, a biogeochemical cycle or substance turnover or cycling of substances is a pathway by which chemical substances move through biotic and abiotic components of earth. The next point is a gaseous cycle. The term gaseous cycle refers to the transfer and transformation of gases between various biogeochemical reservoirs, lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and biosphere. An understanding of the interactions between the reservoirs is essential to any assessment of gases geochemical cycles. The next point is a oxygen cycle. The oxygen cycle is the biogeochemical transitions of oxygen atoms between different oxidation states in ions, oxides, and molecules through redox reactions within and between the spheres or reservoirs of the planet Earth. Then next is a sedimentary cycle. Cyclic sediments are sequences of sedimentary rocks that are characterized by repetitive patterns of different rock types or phases within the sequence. Then sulfur cycle. The sulfur cycle is the collection of process by which sulfur moves between rocks, waterways and living systems. Such biogeochemical cycles are important in geology because they affect many minerals. Then next is a spheres of earth. Everything in Earth's system can be placed into one of four major subsystems: land, water, living things, or air. These four subsystems are called spheres. Spatially, they are the lithosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, and atmosphere. Then next is a atmosphere. We know an atmosphere is a layer or a set of layers of gases surrounding a planet or other material body that is held in place by the gravity of the body. Next point is a lithosphere. A lithosphere is the rigid outermost shell of a terrestrial type planet or natural satellite that is defined by its rigid mechanical properties on Earth. It is composed of the crust and the portion of the upper mantle that behaves elastically on time scale of thousands of years or greater. Then next is a hydrosphere. The hydrosphere is the combined mass of water found on, under, and above the surface of planet, minor planet, or natural satellite. Although Earth's hydrosphere has been around for about 4 billion years, it continues to change in shape. Then next is a biosphere. The biosphere, also known as ecosphere, is the worldwide sum of all ecosystems. It can also be termed the zone of life on Earth, a closed system and largely self-regulating. Then next is a ecological succession. Ecological succession is the process of change in the species structure of an ecological community over time. The time scale can be decades or even millions of years after a mass extinction. Trends, uh, whether primary or secondary succession, both have common characteristics. At the beginning, small plants with short life cycle, such as grass, are present. These are later replaced with larger plants with longer life cycles like trees. This traps more energy via photosynthesis, which increases the biodiversity over time. Food chains are short and simple at first but increase in complexity as time goes on and more species are present. Recycling of waste and nutrients also becomes more efficient. Then basic types of ecological succession: primary succession, secondary succession, and cyclic succession. The hydrarch is the next point. Plant succession starting on relatively shallow water such as ponds and lakes and culminating in a mature forest. It is hydrarch. Then xerarch. Xerarch succession of ecological communities originated in extremely dry situations such as sand deserts, sand dunes, salt deserts, rock deserts, etc. The next point is a unit second. In unit second, first point is a population ecology. We know the development of population ecology owes much to demography and actuarial life tables. Population ecology is important in conservation biology, especially in the development of population viability analysis, which makes it possible to predict the long-term probability of a species persisting in a given habitat patch. Then characteristics of population. First point is a natality. Natality in population ecology is the scientific term for birth rate along with the mortality rate. Natality rate is used to calculate the dynamics of population. They are the key factors in determining whether a population is increasing, decreasing, or staying the same in size. Next point is a mortality. Mortality rate or death rate is a measure of the number of deaths in a particular population scaled to the size of that population per unit of time. The next point is a population and dispersal. The process by which groups of living organisms expand the space or range within which they live. And dispersal operates when individual organisms leave the space that they have occupied previously or in which they were born and settle in new areas. The next point is a population density. Population density is a measurement of population per unit area or exceptionally unit volume. It is a quantity of type number density. It is frequently applied to living organisms, most of the time to humans. It is a key geographical term. Then next is a age distribution. Age distribution, also called age composition in population studies. The proportionate numbers of persons in successive age categories in a given population. The next point is a population growth form. Two types of population growth patterns may occur depending on specific environmental conditions. An exponential pattern, then it is a J curve, occurs in an ideal unlimited environment. A logistic growth patterns S curve occurs when environmental pressures slow the rate of growth. Next point is a population equilibrium. A population in which the allelic frequencies of its gene pool do not change through successive generations. An equilibrium can be established by counteracting evolutionary forces. For example, balance between selection and mutation pressures, or by the absence of evolutionary forces. Population fluctuation, as stated above, populations rarely grow smoothly up to the carrying capacity and then remain there. Instead, fluctuations in population numbers, abundance, or density from one time state to the next are the norm. The next point is a biotic interaction. In ecology, a biological interaction is the effect that a pair of organisms living together in a community have on each other. They can be either of the same species or of different species. In the biotic interaction, first point is a positive interaction. We know positive interactions are cooperative relationship between species that result in better growth, reproduction, and survival for the least one species involved in the interaction without negatively affecting the other species. And next point, in the positive interaction, commensalism. Commensalism is a long-term biological interaction which members of one species gain benefits while those of the other species neither benefit nor are harmed. And next, mutualism. Mutualism describes the ecological interaction between two or more species where each species has a net benefit. Mutualism is a common type of ecological interaction. Then negative interaction. In negative interactions, one of the interacting populations is benefited and the other is harmed. In negative interaction, one population may eat members of the other population, compete for foods, or excrete harmful wastes. Competition, the example of negative interaction. Competition is a negative interaction that occurs among organisms whenever two or more organisms require the same limited resources. Next is a predation. Predation is a negative type of population interaction and it belongs to the exploitation category of negative population interactions. In predation, one species kills and feeds on another species. The killer species is called predator and the one who dead are called prey. Then parasitism. In evolutionary ecology, parasitism is a symbiotic relationship between species where one organism, the parasite, lives on or in another organism, the host, causing it some harm and is adapted structurally to this way of life. Then next unit third is a pollution. We know pollution is the introduction of contaminants into the natural environment that cause adverse change. Pollution can take the form of chemical substances or energy such as noise, heat, or light. Pollutants, the components of pollution can be either foreign substances or energies or natural occurring contaminants. In the pollution, the sources, effects, and control measures of pollution we will see. Then next point is air pollution. Air pollution is the presence of substances in the atmosphere that are harmful to the health of humans and other living beings or cause damage to the climate or to materials. There are different types of air pollutants such as gases, particulates, and biological molecules. Next point is water pollution. Water pollution is the contamination of water bodies, usually as a result of human activities. Water bodies includes, for example, lakes, rivers, oceans, aquifers, and groundwater. Water pollution results when contaminants are introduced into the natural environment. The next point is a noise pollution. Noise pollution, also known as environmental noise or sound pollution, is the propagation of noise with ranging impacts on the active of human or animal life, most of them harmful to a degree. The next point is energy resources. And energy resources is something that can produce heat, power light, move objects, or produce electricity. The next point is conventional energy resources and their limitations. We know conventional sources of energy can be described as non-renewable sources of energy which have been used since a long time, such as natural gas, oil, coal, or nuclear are finite but still hold the majority of the energy market. Then next is fossil fuels. We know fossil fuel is a fuel formed by natural process such as anaerobic decomposition of buried dead organisms containing organic molecules originating in ancient photosynthesis that release energy in combustion. Then next is a nuclear power. We know nuclear power is the use of nuclear reactions that release nuclear energy to generate heat, which most frequently is then used in steam turbines to produce electricity in a nuclear power plant. Then next is a hydel power, the use of flowing water to power a turbine to produce electrical energy. Then non-conventional energy resources and advantages, limitations, and latest developments. We know renewable energy sources, also called non-conventional energy, are sources that are continuously replenished by natural process. And the example of this solar energy, we know solar energy is a radiant light and heat from the sun that is mm, harnessed using a range of ever evolving technologies such as solar heating, solar thermal energy, solar architecture, molten salt power plants, and artificial photosynthesis. The next point is wind energy. We know wind power or wind energy is the use of wind to provide the mechanical power through wind turbines to turn electric generators and traditionally to do other work like milling or pumping. The next is a tidal energy. We know tidal power or tidal energy is harnessed by converting energy from tides into use forms of power, mainly electricity using various methods. Although not yet widely used, tidal energy has the potential for future electricity generation. Tides are more predictable than the wind and the sun. The next is unit 4. In the unit 4, adaptations. We know adaptations is the physical or behavioral characteristic of an organism that helps an organism to survive better in the surrounding environment. First point is aquatic adaptation. Aquatic adaptations are the morphological, behavioral, physiological adjustments to acclimatize or thrive in aquatic environment. And the next one is a desert adaptation, where the environment is generally hot and extremely dry. Life forms have specially adaptations to cope with this desert condition is called as a desert adaptation. Then next one is a volant adaptation. Volant adaptation refers to the adaptation in those having a flying mode of life. Included are modifications that helps organism sustain and propel their body in the air. It may be for passive gliding or for active true flight. Next one is a wildlife conservation and endangered species. We know wildlife conservation refers to the practice of protecting wild species and their habitats in order to maintain healthy wildlife species or populations and to restore, protect, or enhance natural ecosystem. And endangered species, an endangered species is a species that is very likely to become extinct in the near future, either worldwide or in a particular political jurisdiction. Endangered species may be at risk due to factors such as habitat loss, poaching, and invasive species. The next point is aim and necessity of wildlife conservation. The main objective of this practice is to ensure that their habitats will be preserved so that the future generations of both wildlife and human can enjoy it. The next point is wildlife and endangered species of India. We know all animals and birds in India are rated as critically endangered and endangered or vulnerable. Mainly endangered animals in India are big cats family includes snow leopard, Bengal tiger and Asiatic lion. Other India's endangered animals are purple frog or pig-nosed frog, then great Indian vulture, Indian giant squirrel, giant Indian fruit bat, great birds and king cobra. Then next point is measures to protect endangered species in India. India is one of the mega diverse countries out of a total of seven mega diverse countries in the world. Then 17 mega diverse countries, including India, are the habitats of around 60 to 70% of the world's biodiversity. The Western Ghats, the Eastern Himalayas, and Indo-Burma are the three biodiversity hotspots out of the total 34 in the whole world. India has 6.5% of the world's total wildlife species, according to a report which was published by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, that includes 7.6% of all mammals and 12.6% of all bird species. Then sanctuaries and national parks in India. India is still home to some of the most beautiful creatures in the world. There are 400 wildlife sanctuaries and 80 national parks in India, which give shelter to the wide range of wild and endangered wild animals. Because of deforestation and other human activity, wild animals lost their habitat and reached at risk of become extinct. India is losing their animals due to environmental pollution, deforestation, loss of habitat, human interference, poaching and hunting. The next point is a zoo geography. We know zoogeography is the branch of the science of biogeography that concern with geographic distribution of animal species. Then zoogeographical realms on the basis of presence and absence of several organisms. The earth can be divided into some regions. These regions are called realms. In the physical features and fauna of following realms in brief. Then first is the Oriental realm. Oriental or Sino-Indian by geographic region which extends eastward from India to include mainland and which much of insular Southeast Asia. Its fauna are numerous and highly diverse. Then next one is the Australian realm. And the Australian realm is a biogeographic realm that is coincident but not synonymous with the geographical region of Australia. The realm includes Australia, the islands of New Guinea, and the eastern part of Indonesian archipelago, including the island of Salvasia and Moluccan Island and islands of Lombok, Sumba, Flores, and Timor, often known as the Lesser Sudans. The Australian realm also includes several Pacific islands group. Thank you. This is our syllabus for paper number 12.